going on, you guys? It's Golden back with a video, and today we are continuing on the Project Oliver cheapest turbo Miata build on YouTube here. We've actually made it pretty far in this section of the video. We're going to be installing the entire hot side of the turbo. That includes turbo, downpipe O2 sensor, oil feed and drains, and our exhaust header manifold. And it's a lot crazier and out there than you think. Okay, it's not straightforward. I'm a guy who doesn't know what he's doing, has never turboed a car, and don't have a kit for it. So, if you guys like the video, make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe. And part 3 will hopefully be coming out soon, where we do the intercooler and tuning for this car. Anyways, without any further ado, let's get right into not an ECU. Alright, so here we have everything that we're going to be using to turbo this Miata. I've already removed the hood off of it, and so we're going to get started on that shortly. But we have our T3 to T4 turbo. I got a cheapo. I went max speeding rods. It was only like $100 something bucks, easy. I got my AFR gauge with my wideband O2 here that we're going to be using. I've got a blow-off valve in case we just had to go down that route. I might, just because I like the sound of it. I have like 3 of these in a box. We'll go over that in a second. Oil feed line. I'm going to have to pick something up for the oil drain on this. And this is the problem we ran into. They advertised it as a T3 turbo manifold when I got it. It was in fact not. It was a T2, and I'm running T3, so that would be a problem. So I got this adapter plate from Amazon that's hopefully going to hold us over temporarily, because I could not for the life of me find a T3 turbo manifold that would deliver before next year. Here we have our intercooler and our kind of jank setup for it to mount it. It works kind of. This is a little flimsy up here. We're going to go over that. We're going to try to mount it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, oh well, I'm going to make another mount. But that's what we got to work with here. We've got our filter there, a couple other miscellaneous parts, and over here, a random box of miscellaneous turbo parts, which also came with that intercooler and blow-off valve and everything you've seen. It comes with a bunch of stuff, even more blow-off valve, wastegates, everything. And then some other turbo parts here, laid over here. So we got a bunch of intercooler piping. Hopefully we're going to be able to find a way to run it. I'm thinking down under the radiator maybe. Or I've seen a lot of people run them down through here. I'm thinking about running it like that as well. Kind of like a 2 broke, 2 boosted build. Like, I don't know if you've seen that. If you haven't, I'd recommend watching it. That's what I kind of got inspiration for this for. Not really. I thought of it, found his channel, and it's helped me out a lot. But that's what we got to work with. So without any further ado, let's turbo Oliver. Firstly, we're going to start by removing this exhaust manifold that we've got here. And so that way we can put the turbo manifold on it, set the turbo up, so that way I can figure out which way my downpipe needs to go. I ideally do want to run a hood with this setup eventually, so I'm going to try to like run the turbo maybe something like here, and then have the downpipe come up through the hood. That is going to be kind of the ideal goal, and then hopefully from there it should just be as simple as running intercooler piping to the intercooler and running it to the engine and tuning it. And of course the oil lines, which we'll get into that later. But for now, we're going to go ahead and try to mount our turbo manifold we bought to the engine, and hopefully all goes well. Now we've gotten every exhaust bolt off except this one decided to take the stud with it, which we have a fix for that. It's called a vise and a ratchet. And then we'll just go ahead and kind of tighten it up in there afterwards with some thread locker or something. But other than that, that is all the exhaust bolts off of the car. And now this header should just kind of move freely like that. Next problem is getting that thing off, which worries me a little bit, but we're going to try it. And unfortunately, my impact battery has died, so we're stuck with a ratchet for that part too. Now, as for our next issue with these headers, is they also have this EGR here. I don't think we're going to need that. So what we're going to do is use tools to solve modern problems. Modern tools solve modern problems. Now say it with me. And as for the other problem we're running into, where these 2 bolts are connected to the header, they don't really have much room to get up in there. And honestly, I don't really feel like messing with them. So we're back to the same solution of modern problems require modern solutions. This is gonna sound like such shit. Also, we are completely sideways starting this thing up, so we're just gonna do it for a second so I don't starve the engine of oil. But that sounded like absolute dog shit. Now we can almost pull this off, but it looks to be a little 10mm bolt down there, a little hanger holding it on. But it's ready to come off once we get that little hanger off. All right, we have finally freed up this header from everything in here. And now we can just pull it all on out once I get that out. All right, so update. I've been at this for about the past hour and a half trying to pull out this header, and I got everything off, but this damn O2 sensor down there will not come off. And that is hooking on this, and I can't turn it around this way because the exhaust down there is stuck. Whenever I turn it this way too much, it gets stuck. So I'm gonna cut it down there where it's straight, hopefully be able to twist this thing a little bit more and pull this thing out, because that O2 sensor has been put in with the power of Midas, Thor, and God himself, because my God, that is the tightest. Progress is being made, people. We're almost there. Just got a little bit of the pipe left to cut off. And then we can finally be done. Damn, I'm coughing. Oh, yeah, but yeah. I don't know how the hell, I think a duck might have died in my exhaust or some shit. I don't know, but we are almost there. All this because that little O2 sensor said, no, I don't feel like leaving. Well, guess what, buddy? You no longer belong to God. Your warranty has expired, brother. That shit took way longer than it should have, but we successfully have one Miata header gone. Finally, great success. Alrighty, boys, just tested this header, test fitted it. That is going to look insane. Insane. There is only one issue though. And that is that's a fairly large turbo. I don't think we're gonna have room here with this coolant pipe in the way. And I also don't want to melt it off. But, well, I guess the exhaust had literally been sitting on it, so it shouldn't melt off from the turbo, like, just touching it. We're gonna pull out these studs out of this. We're gonna mount the turbo on here and see what we're working with. All right, so we ran into a small problem. This flange adapter that I got showed me that the actual header itself was not quite level. So what I went ahead and did is just welded that joint up. Ugly, but this is what it'll be showing, and that looks okay. It'll hold. Like, I don't know. I got a hammer near me, but it'll hold. So I'm going to put the turbo on that once that cools down. And then we're going to go ahead and try to put it inside of this engine bay. My biggest concern, however, is the turbine is going to sit right here, which is fine. That, like, that's whatever. We'll have to figure out how we're going to go ahead and make a pipe to come up through here, out the hood. But that's fine. My biggest concern is the center and everything, if it's actually going to fit down in here. Because most turbos for Miatas, they sit out like this. I don't know, this is a header for a Miata. I mean, it fits on there. I don't know how they expected it to work. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't see how that... I guess a big-ass turbo. I don't get it. Alright, we've got the whole turbo unit kind of set up here. Turbo on the header, all welded up. And I told you guys, this will hold, like... It holds. So, problem is, it mounts like this, right? And there's no way in hell that big turbo is fitting in there like that. So what we're gonna do, put the phone out for a second. We're going to go ahead and cut this off right here, flip it around, or I guess flip it like this, weld it back on there. So that way we can have the turbo sitting like this, and obviously I'm gonna take the turbo off this flange and just kind of turn it 180 degrees. See, because if we do that, So, change of plans. As you guys can see, there's no turbo on this car yet. That is because the manifold that I tried to weld, once I cut it and flipped it, it was bent. The entire thing, I guess how they welded it, was kind of just pushed together and welded, or it's just the fact that I cut off so much to, flip it, it won't weld. The gaps are about like this big. So there's no welding that. So I'm about to go on Marketplace, go meet a guy and buy a manifold for $100, which will be cheaper than this one. So it'll be an even cheaper build, but this does kind of suck. All right, once again, shitty audio, but we've just picked up the turbo manifold for the Miata. Now it's an hour and a half drive back home. Let's get it. 9 o'clock, 9:30 at night. We finally got back with the turbo manifold. This one, I just looked over it. Everything should work on it. Just got to adjust how this turbo sits, and then we can go ahead and mount this up, put it in the engine bay, and start figuring out how we're going to do the hood dump exhaust off of it and run the oil feed lines. Now, after that, we should be able just to run our intercooler piping, put in a OBD2, or not OBD2, a wideband O2 sensor in the top of this, and we should be golden. All right, we're back on day 2 of the turbo installation on Project Oliver. Last night, got a little late, got a little cold. We're back at it again, though. All we got to do to cut this down, like a lot more, and just so that way we can actually fit the header on, all we got to do is cut out a little bit more of the frame to fit it in there. And then I'm going to probably make it look nice eventually. But that's essentially how it's going to look. That's what we got so far. Got to connect the vacuum line for the wastegate. Got to connect the oil lines. And after that, we should just be able to hook up the turbo, get the downpipe set up, and start this thing up. So without any further ado, let's get right into cutting that damn A-frame. Or not A-frame, pillar. Something, I don't know. All right, the turbo is finally mounted in there. It's on the studs. Only problem I've noticed with this manifold is that this is too thick to actually like put a bolt on or put a nut on. I'm assuming maybe it's fine to just go ahead and torque all the, because all the center ones like boom, 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 and then the lower two are kind of thin enough to put bolts on them. So that'd be 5 studs with bolts on them. I think that'll be fine. I'm gonna look into it more and figure out, because I don't want to have an exhaust leak. But the turbo is mounted in there. I'm gonna have to clean this up, because in order for it to actually clear and go on there, I had to cut all this off, but it actually isn't like I thought it was gonna be, turbo here. But that is not what happened. But no worries, because we're going to go ahead and clean up this whole section of the engine bay here, because I do want this to kind of be a drift and show car build. That's why I've kind of deleted pretty much everything in this engine bay, not important to running the car. But now what we're going to do is take this back off, try to clean everything up, run the oil feed line and the oil... we'll worry about the drain line later. All right, so working on this downpipe, this is what we have currently. I'm going to clean up all these edges. I had an angle grinder and some tape. Okay, leave me alone. I've never done this before. But yeah, so we're going to clean up these edges, tack them together, and hopefully it should come off the turbo about at that angle, just like that. Put the V-band there, and then attach a long pipe, such as this, to it, and have a hood dump, temporarily at least, because I don't want to have, well, that permanently. This I'll probably repurpose into a downpipe, but for now, hood dump time. And just like that, all those pie welds or pie cuts are welded together nicely. If you can't tell, I'm joking. I found this in the mystery box of turbo parts. Luckily, it was just attached to this right here that's supposed to bolt onto a turbo. I cut it off, gave it a nice angle, so that way it'll sit about like that coming off of the turbo. Just going to weld the V-band to it, and we should be good. And for anyone who was wanting a visualization of what I plan to achieve from putting this turbo on my Miata, essentially, turbo, small goes, this is two-step, go, boom, cool ass car. Yeah, so remember that whole part where I said we're going to get the downpipe situated and we'll be good to go on the hot side? I lied. So where we're sitting at right now, I couldn't get it all to line up. I'll be honest, not a welder at all. And that was stainless steel. I was going to try to weld with a flux core welder. So I just figured I'll give it to my dad and let him go ahead and take a shot at it. And he took it to work. He's going to be welding up a downpipe and everything for us, or hood dump rather. But in the meantime, while he's doing that, I have gotten a attachment right there to run our oil feed line. And I have gotten as well some hose, because the one that the kit came with does not have a drain hose. I'm just going to use the hose off of this with this fitting into the oil pan, and hopefully go ahead and sneak this fitting onto here. So that way we'll have a turbo oil drain along with our oil feed line, which we do actually have for the turbo, surprisingly enough. So this is just going to screw into there, screw into the turbo. We'll have oil running to the turbo. Should have a downpipe by the end of the day. Once we get all that back, we're going to go ahead and put the turbo back on the car and start it up. Oh, and one last thing we got to do as well. I'll go and flip this over. So this is made to have a wastegate on the header. We do not have that for this build because we got an internally gated turbo. So I'm going to weld a piece that bolts up here and covers this. So that way there's no exhaust leaks whatsoever. And then we should be good to start the car by the end of the day. Fingers crossed, hopefully. Alright, for the blow-off valve block-off plate, this is kind of what I've come up with here. We've got this piece that came with the kit, which was stainless steel. And I had a piece of steel laying around, so I just kind of welded this to it. Don't judge my welds, okay? We're talking about flux wire trying to put together steel and stainless. So I'd say, I'm not even gonna lie, it's terrible. It's not gonna win any beauty contests, but it is gonna hold. What we're gonna do is probably try to paint this up a little bit, even though you're not gonna see it at all. And then we're gonna go ahead and stick it to the bottom side of that header over there and mount it up. We have the oil feed line ran out of that hole there. We're just gonna put it to the top of the turbo. We don't have a 90-degree for it yet, so it's gonna be sticking at the top of the turbo, kind of like that. Okay, currently turbo is all hooked up and ready to go. Only thing left to do on it is that downpipe I was talking about and the turbo oil drain. We're going to wait on that though, because I got something I want to do instead. So before we start it up, I want to get my intercooler mocked up and figure out where all the lines are going to go and everything. So we're going to go ahead and pop off this front bumper here. And I've got some piping here that I'm going to use. I'm thinking maybe something like this. The intercooler piping runs out, and then we'll go ahead and use something, make sure that doesn't fall, use something like this right here to go down into that hole and meet up with the intake. And then of course intercooler down there. Bada bing, bada boom, everyone's happy. Turbo Miata. And then from there, we just run under the radiator, down through here, and directly to the turbo. That's the plan for it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this bumper off, mock up the intercooler, and figure out where everything's going to go. Because I do want to wait on that until we can find a solution for the turbo drain. And it's going to actually be another day because the TIG welder was broken. It's going to be another day on that downpipe there that we want to do. So in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and mock up some intercooler piping. Sound good? Good. I don't care. It's not your video. Turbo your Miata instead if you got a problem with it. Or complain in my comments. Get me some engagement. I'm good with either or. And we're back for day 4 of the Turbo Miata. This has been some really slow progress because, one, we're now into the week, so I work every day and don't get off till pretty late. But luckily, I'll show you guys what we got so far. We got our downpipe all nice and welded. Beautiful TIG welds, as well as on the bung. So this is going to be the downpipe. It's going to go through the hood. I looked into it. It seems for the O2 sensor I got, this shouldn't be too close, but it also needed to be at least 100 millimeters away from any sort of open air. So I went ahead and kind of did that down. That was my only option because I want it to come directly out of the hood. I don't want it to stick up all crazy. So that was kind of my only option there. Hopefully this ends up working good. We also have our drain tube here. We got the tap we're going to need for it, the drain tube down there, and somewhere, don't know where I put it. The shop is a mess from this whole project. It's just everything's everywhere. So there it is. We have this barbed fitting with a hose clamp on it. We're going to go ahead and, if it'll focus, screw that in to the oil pan there. We're going to drain the oil real quick, get this all screwed in. It's going to have fresh oil in it, so for 2 reasons. One, avoid metal shavings, kind of flush out the system. Maybe. I don't know if it'll actually do that. But 2, because I don't feel like putting a vacuum on there, drilling and finding out that I had the wrong vacuum and kind of got the wrong idea about how that works. So we're going to go ahead and drain the oil out of it. And I will be back once we're drilling and tapping this oil pan for the drain. All right, now here's the scary bit. I've already tapped or punched the oil pan right there where I'm going to be drilling. I want it's high up in there just so that way it drains in through the top and nothing kind of it doesn't have any force going back on it. I went ahead and taped up some extra duct tape I found on this drill, 1/4 inch or 3/8 of an inch from the tip, just so that way I don't hit the oil pickup. And well, drill baby drill. All right, now I know this video has been all over the place, but we finally have everything finished. All we have to do is run intercooler piping to the intake and hook up the O2 sensor that I have here and get some heat wrap on that. But as for that, the entire hot side of the turbo is finally finished. Got a beautiful hood exit here. It's gonna have to come up quite a bit, but that's just for now. That's just our starting down pipe. I want to make sure everything fit. But yeah, no, turbo is in the car, has an oil drain, it has an oil inlet. We're gonna have to get a 90-degree for that. But like I said, these are all small things that we can fix over time. I just topped off the engine with oil, and so now what we're about to do, since it's fully ready, we're gonna take it outside, start her up, see how it sounds, and in the next video, we'll be finishing this intercooler piping and tuning the car. Now, I'm probably going to do it off camera, the OBD2 sensor, because I feel like it's going to take a while, make it a little bit boring, or not OBD2, sorry, O2 sensor. It's going to be a little boring, might take a little while, so that'll be off camera. But, yeah, as for that, whole hot side of the turbo done here. That's going to be it. We're going to go ahead and go outside and start it, hear it, after I finish cleaning up the shop. And, yeah, I'm excited. As you guys just saw there, Miata started up perfectly first time. Small exhaust leak that you can see coming out the headers there. But, I think it's just because we're missing like 4 studs on the outside of the headers. So, probably what that is. But yeah, no, fired up perfectly first time. Sounds great. I can hardly hear the turbo over the rest of the exhaust. But I'm assuming once we put the blow-off valve and hook it up to the intake, it'll sound a whole lot better. And once this tube is just a little bit longer, or when I decide to make it an actual like exhaust tube. But yeah, shit sounds pretty damn minty. And next video, we're going to be installing the intercooler piping and everything, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay golden.